भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयन्तीर्यः अष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. So today we are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, starting new chapter, chapter 18, description of Varnashram Dharma, text number 1 onwards. So previous chapter, Krishna gave description of Varnashram system, but this chapter is entitled Description of Varnashram Dharma. And he will describe about the duties of Vanprastha and sannyasis, besides other things. The text 1. श्री भगवान उवाच वनं विविक्षु पुत्रेषु भार्यां न्यस्य सहैव वन एव वसेच्छान्तस्तृतीयं भागमायुषः. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who desires to adopt the third order of life, Vanaprastha, should enter the forest with a peaceful mind, leaving his wife with his mature sons, or else taking her along with him. In Kali Yuga, a human being generally cannot live more than 100 years, and even this is becoming most unusual. A man who has a reasonable expectation of life for 100 years may adopt the Vanprastha order at the age of 50. And then at the age of 75, he may take sannyas for complete renunciation. Since in Kali Yuga, very few people live for 100 years, one should adjust the schedule accordingly. Vanprastha is intended as a gradual transition from materialistic family life to the stage of complete renunciation. But speaking of going for Vanprastha means retired life, but not living at home, going to the forest or to the holy places to do pilgrimage. No. But at the age of 50, people don't even retire until 60, 65, 70 now. So it's difficult to follow. But what the scriptures say it is Kandamula Falaravanyar Madhyar Vritim Prakalpayet Vasit Valkalam Vasas Trin Parna Jinani Va. Having adopted the Vanprastha order of life, one should arrange one's sustenance by eating uncontaminated bulbs, roots, and fruits that grow in the forest. One may dress oneself with tree bark, grass, leaves, or animal skins. A renounced sage in the forest does not kill animals, but rather acquires the skin from animals who have suffered natural death. According to a passage from Manu Sahita quoted by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the word Medhya or pure indicates that while residing in the forest, a sage may not accept honey-based liquors, animal flesh, fungus, mushrooms, horseradish, or any hallucinogenic or intoxicating herbs, even those taken as so-called medicine. Means Vanprat is actually the preparation for sannyas order. So one should slowly, completely renounce everything and depend completely on Krishna. That's the purpose of Vanprastha. केशरो मन्नखश्रृम्लानि बिभ्र्यादतः नाधावे दप्सु मज्जे त्रिकालं स्थण्डिलेशयः. The Vanprastha should not groom the hair on his head, body, or face, should not manicure his nails, should not pass stool and urine at irregular times, and should not make a special endeavor for dental hygiene. He should be content to take bath in water 3 times daily and should sleep on the ground because he has to get ready for sannyas ashram and give up all the conveniences of grihastha ashram. Because the ultimate purpose is not to live comfortably in this material world, which nobody can live comfortably anyway. Ultimately, purpose is to get out of this material world. Grishme tapyet panchagnina varsha swasarash jangale akantha magna shishir evam vritas tapascharit. Thus engaged as a vanpras, one should execute penance during the hottest summer days by subjecting oneself to burning fires on four sides and the blazing sun overhead. During the rainy season, one should remain outside, subjecting oneself to torrents of rain. And in the freezing winter, one should remain submerged in water up to one's neck. Wow. We don't even want to take bath in freezing winter. And here it says one should remain submerged in water up to one's neck. One who engages in sense gratification must perform severe penances at the end of life to counteract his sinful hedonistic activities. A devotee of the Lord, however, naturally develops Krishna consciousness and need not subject himself to such radical penances as stated in Pancharatra. That if one is worshipping the Lord properly, what is the use of severe penances? And if one is not worshipping properly the Lord, what's the use of severe penances? If Krishna is realized within and without everything that exists, what's the use of severe penances? And if Shri Krishna is not seen within and without everything, what's the use of severe penances? Agni pakvam samashniyat kala pakvamatapi va ulu klashma kuttova danto lukal evava. One may eat foodstuffs prepared with fire, such as grains or fruits ripened by time. One may grind one's food with mortar and stone, or with one's own teeth. In Vedic civilization, it is recommended that at the end of one's life, one should go to a holy place or forest for spiritual perfection. In sacred forests, one does not find restaurants, supermarkets, fast food chains, and so on. And thus one must eat simply, reducing sense gratification. Although in the Western countries people eat processed food, one living simply must himself separate and pulverize grains and other foods before eating. This is referred to here. So that is why people don't want to study the scriptures, because it gives so harsh instructions. Swayam sanchinuyat sarvam atmano vrittikaranam desha kala bala bhigyo naditanya dahritam. The Vanpras should personally collect whatever he requires for his bodily maintenance, carefully considering the time, place, and its own capacity. He should never collect provisions for the future. Means he should be dependent on the Lord. Lord will definitely provide for everybody. That's for sure. Like some sage or some kavi has said, because he has given this opening in our mouth, he will provide food for the mouth also. According to Vedic regulations, one practicing austerity should collect only what he requires for immediate use, and upon receiving gifts of foodstuff, he should immediately give up that which he has previously collected, so that there will be no surplus. This regulation is meant to keep one fixed in faithful dependence on the Supreme Lord. One should never stock food or other bodily necessities for future use. The term Deshakala Balabhigya indicates that in a particularly difficult place or in time of emergency or personal incapacity, this strict rule need not be followed, as confirmed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Yeah, if somebody is sick or it's a difficult place, so we have to see how much rules we can follow. But the rules are very strict for Vanpras and for sannyasis also. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out that unless one is completely incapacitated, one should not depend on others for one's personal maintenance, as this will create a debt that can only be repaid by taking another birth in the material. This applies only to those endeavoring for personal purification and not to those engaged full time in the devotional service to Lord Krishna. A pure devotee eats, dresses, and speaks only for the service of the Lord, and thus whatever assistance he accepts from others is not for himself. He is fully surrendered to the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one not so surrendered will certainly have to take birth again in the material world to repay all of his debts to others. So if we take service from somebody, but we are not completely surrendered to Krishna, then we have to repay that debt to others. Means come back and do the service. What to speak of people who like to cheat others for money or some other things? How many times they have to take birth to repay that debt with interest? Vanya puroda shahra nirvipet kal joditan natu shroten pashuna mam yajet vanashrami. One who has accepted the Vanprastha order of life should perform seasonal sacrifices by offering oblations of charu and sacrificial cakes prepared from rice and other grains found in the forest. The Vanprastha, however, may never offer animal sacrifices to me, even though they are mentioned in the Vedas. One who has taken the Vanprastha order of life should never perform animal sacrifice or eat meat. So this is complete um, refutation of people when they say, "Oh, Lord Ram ate meat in the forest." Lord Ram never ate meat. And then somebody asked Prabhupada said, if Ram wants, he can eat the whole universe. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he never ate meat when he was in the forest. Agnihotram cha darshascha paurnamasascha purvavat chatur masyani cha maniram natani cha nagamahim. The Vanprastha should perform the Agnihotra, Darsha, and Purnamash sacrifices, as he did while in the Grihastha ashram. He should also perform the vows and sacrifices of Chaturmasya, since all of those rituals are enjoined for the Vanprastha ashram by expert knower of the Vedas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a detailed explanation of the four rituals mentioned here, namely Agnihotra, Darsha, Purnamas, and Chaturmasya. The conclusion is that because for us, we don't even know all these sacrifices, forget about performing. So everything for us is in chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Conclusion is that everyone should simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and avoid the difficult entanglement of Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. If one neither chants Hare Krishna nor performs such rituals, one certainly becomes a Pashandi or an atheistic fool. So best is just chant Hare Krishna. Evam chiranena tapasa manirdhamani santataha mam tapo maya maradhya rishi loka dupaitimam. The saintly Vanprastha, practicing severe penances and accepting only the bare necessities of life, becomes so emaciated, so thin that he appears to be mere skin and bones. Thus, worshipping me through severe penances, he goes to the Maharloka planet and then directly achieves me. So, this is the result of performing so tapasya for few years. It's not for too many years. A Vanprastha who develops pure devotional service achieves the Supreme Lord Krishna, while in the Vanprastha stage of life. One does not become completely Krishna consciousness. However, then he first goes to planet Maharloka or Rishi Loka, and from there directly achieves Krishna. One achieves Maharloka or Rishi Loka through strict observance of positive and negative regulations. However, without developing a taste for chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, it's not possible to achieve the perfect liberation of going back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, on the Maharloka planet, the unsuccessful sage gives more attention to chanting and hearing, and thus he gradually develops pure love of Godhead. Yastvetat kritaschirnam tapo nishreyasam mahat kamayalpiyase yunjyant balishako aparastataha. One who with long endeavor executes this painful but exalted penance, which awards ultimate liberation, simply to achieve insignificant sense gratification, must be considered the greatest fool. Mhm. Although the process of vantrust described by Lord Krishna is so glorious that even the consolation prize is promotion to Maharloka. One who consciously performs this process of such promotion to heaven is certainly the greatest fool. The Lord does not want this process to be abused or exploited by materialistic rascals. So the ultimate goal is love of God. So goal is not just to go to Maharloka. So goal is to go further back to the spiritual world. यदासो नियमय कल्पो जरया जात वेपथुः आत्मन्य अग्निं समारोप्य मच्चित्तो अग्निं समाविशेत्. If the vanprasth is overtaken by old age and because of his trembling body is no longer able to execute his prescribed duties, he should place the sacrificial fire within the heart by meditation. Then, fixing his mind on me, he should enter into the fire and give up his body. Since the process of vanprasth is recommended for those nearing the end of life, there is always the likelihood that one will prematurely succumb to the symptoms of old age and be unable to reach the final stage of sannyas. If one simply cannot carry on his religious duties due to old age, it is here advised that he fix the mind in Lord Krishna and enter into the sacrificial fire. Means, that's what it says. He should place the sacrificial fire within his heart by meditation, not physically get into the fire. Means he should concentrate on the fire element by meditation and then give up his body. Although this may not be possible in the modern age, we can appreciate the absolute seriousness of going back to Godhead as evidenced in this verse. And then Krishna says, fixing his mind on me, he should enter into the fire and give up his body. Yada karma vipakeshu lokeshu niratmasu virago jayate samyak nyastagani pravrajyetataha. If the vanprastha, understanding that even promotion to Brahmaloka is a miserable situation, develops complete detachment from all possible results of fruitive activities, then he may take the sannyas order of life because he is completely detached, renounced. Ishtva yathopadesham mam dattva sarvasvam ritvijay agnina swaprana aveshya nirapeksha parivrajit. Having worshipped me according to scriptural injunctions and having given all one's property to the sacrificial priest, one should place the fire sacrifice within oneself. Thus, with the mind completely detached, one should enter the sannyas order of life. One cannot maintain the sannyas order of life unless one gives up all materialistic association and engages exclusively in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Any material desire will gradually prove to be a stumbling block in the prosecution of renounced life. Therefore, a liberated sannyasi must vigilantly keep himself free from the weeds of material desires, which surface principally in the form of attachment to women, money, and reputation. One may possess a beautiful garden filled with fruits and flowers, but without vigilant maintenance, the garden will be overrun by weeds. Similarly, one who achieves a beautiful state of Krishna consciousness takes the sannyas order of life. But if he does not vigilantly and painstakingly keep his heart clean, there is always a danger of relapse into illusion. So sannyas definitely is a highest order of life, but sannyas is not symbol for power or position. It means complete detachment, complete renunciation. And as it is said, the attachment to women, money, and reputation should completely be gone. They're like weeds if one wants to take sannyas, weeds of material desires. It's very difficult to give them up. So, so one has to be very vigilant, very careful when one is a sannyasi. Viprasya vai sanyasato deva dharadi rupinam vignan kurvanti ayam yasman nakramya samyat param. This man taking sannyas is going to surpass us and come back to God. Thus thinking, the demigods create stumbling blocks on the path of the sannyasi by appearing before him in the shape of his former wife or other women and attractive objects. But the sannyasi should pay the demigods and their manifestations no heed. The demigods are empowered with universal administration and by their potency may appear as a former wife of a sannyasi or as other women, so that the sannyasi gives up his strict vow and becomes entangled in sense gratification. Lord Krishna here encourages all sannyasis by telling them, pay no attention to such illusory manifestations. Continue your duties and go back to God. See, demigods, why did they do that? Because they had to make sure this person, sannyasi, or any devotee, in fact, for that matter, is completely ready, completely detached from everything else and only has attachment for Krishna. They want to make sure this is their service. In fact, we have all heard of Sridhar Swami. Sridhar Swami was a great acharya and first commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Sridhar Swami, he was married, but then he thought of taking sannyas. But then he thought, oh, what will people say? Or the villagers will say, this guy got just married and he has left his wife and gone away. This doesn't look right. So he kept on thinking, but he just postponed. And then again he was thinking, but then later he had a baby. And now he had a baby. He was thinking of taking Sonia, but then he thought, what will the villagers say? The relatives say. They will say, oh, this guy had wife and children and a baby, and he just left both of them and not doing his duties. So he didn't do anything. Later again, he was thinking of taking sannyas, and his wife died. And when his wife died, he thought of taking sannyas, but then he thought, what will the relatives say? Oh, his wife just died, and baby is such a little boy, and he just left everything and he's gone away. Who's going to take care of the baby? So while he was contemplating like this, he saw a lizard, a baby lizard, fell from the wall of his hut onto the ground. And while the baby lizard was on the ground and he was looking around what to eat, a little insect, he was walking nearby the baby lizard, and the lizard just turned and ate that insect, and then finally he managed to get on the wall. So then Sridhar Swami thought, if the Lord can provide for this little baby lizard, won't he provide for my baby? It's not possible. The Lord will take care. And he left his baby in the hut and went to sannyas. Obviously, the Lord took care of the baby, but that kind of conviction has to be there. Faith has to be there. And the sannyas should not be just sannyas in the namesake only, that okay, I'll leave everything out of frustration and go to maybe Vrindavan or some other place and find a nice wife and get married again. That's not sannyas. So this training period of brahmacharya life is training anyway for getting either into grihas life properly or into vanprasth, and then from grihas or again into vanprasth, that is a preparation for sannyas. And sannyas means, actually sannyas is socially dead. The person is socially dead. And that is a preparation for going back home to content. With full surrender, full faith, full conviction that Krishna will take care of me. That is real sannyas. So that's how it is explained here, and we can stop here and see anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Prabhuji, when we go for a sannyas, don't we create a bad karma because we left our home or the responsibilities what we have? We are not taking care of those responsibilities, and तो वो कर्म नहीं create हो जाते हैं उससे, bad karmas are not created.
If we are not fully surrendered, then yes, we do create karmas. If you're fully surrendered, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayami ma shuchi. So when he says sarva dharman, so dharma means varnashram dharma also. But that full surrender has to be there. Mam ekam sharanam vraja.
And what is the parameter of full surrender? Who is going to judge? Because कहीं ना कहीं वो मन में एक रह जाता है ना कि नहीं, that I left. कभी तो ख्याल आएगा ही ना संन्यास में. Suppose I have taken a sannyas and मेरे को suppose 15 years हो गए हैं, लेकिन मेरे मन में कहीं ना कभी 24 hours में एक बार तो सोचने में आ जाता है ना कि I left my home. So वो जो complete surrender का वो क्या definition है? How is going? वो जो thoughts आ रहे हैं वो create नहीं करते कर्मा क्या?
नहीं, thoughts तो नहीं है, until we do act on those
अच्छा,
thoughts.
okay.
Complete surrender means completely following the instructions of Krishna or Guru. And Guru is to help us understand the instructions and follow them. And just like in ISKCON, when they take sannyas, means complete surrender and completely get into preaching and serving Krishna. And as for sannyasi, we'll read further in the duties. One of the duty is he should not stay at one place for more than 3 days. He should keep on traveling and preaching. So he doesn't even get attached to that place. 6 Goswamis, when they were in Vrindavan, they would not even sleep under the same tree for 2 nights in a row. That we should not get attached to that tree also. That is sannyas. Real sannyas. Of course, for preaching purposes, Prabhupada did many things, but that his purpose was to preach, not to just get attached or enjoy.
Okay. So memories keeps coming and going. It doesn't affect the sannyas life actually.
Yeah, memories will come. That's different. They might not come either, but they might come. But Krishna, that's one that conviction has to be there. Krishna will take care. Krishna does take care of everything. And especially those who have given up everything for his service. Won't Krishna take care of them? He takes care of everybody who don't even believe in him, who say things against him. Won't he
Yes.
take care of everybody who has done it, left everything for his service? He will. And he does. He does take care. But that faith has to be there.
Okay.
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 Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
No,
Jai
that's
Shri
safe and
Prabhupada.
wonderful. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Ram.
Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.